Welcome back to the State of Soy. We're coming today from Rippey, Iowa, home to our ISA Board President, Tim Bardol. In fact, each show will take you to various locations around the state as we track the latest news in the world of soybeans. As 2019 was winding down, trade talks were heating up. So we sat down with farmer and ISA Director of Market Development, Grant Kimberley, to talk trade and how these new deals impact soybean farmers.
It's been a busy time of the year, certainly, with the news that USMCA has finally been able to move ahead. The House has passed USMCA rather soundly, and so now the next move is for it to go to the Senate at some point here in the near future. But there are some complications because of the impeachment side of things. The timing of when that would all occur, we're not sure yet. But all indications are, the Senate will also approve it and the President will sign it. And what this means to soybean farmers and farmers in general is that we continue to have a great access to our closest neighbors, Mexico and Canada, for soybeans. Now keep in mind we already had 0% tariff process when it came to soybean exports to Mexico. So this new trade agreement doesn't change things that much, but what it does do is provide certainty for farmers that that process will remain in place. The benefits that other parts of agriculture will see is some better access for some of the livestock and meat products. And so that'll be where the bigger advantage is. But the good thing is that this provides certainty for farmers that we're going to continue to maintain access to our closest markets. And Mexico is the #2 market for U.S. soybeans and U.S. soybean meal. That means that we won't revert back to the pre-NAFTA days where we actually did have tariffs that were in place. So it just ensures that we're going to maintain our 0% tariffs to Mexico and continue that process and provides that certainty. And as I said, some of our other partners in agriculture, the livestock industry, might get some additional access for enhanced exports, which is helpful for our domestic demand for soybeans. The China saga has been going on for a couple of years now, and we've had tariffs and retaliatory tariffs and increases in tariffs and temporary exemptions and truces. It's been much like probably a Star Wars movie, but hopefully now we're in the third act, the final of the trilogy, and I would assume that now we're going to go forward, and it sounds like we've reached a phase 1 agreement in principle at the time that we're looking at this, but we still have to see the details ironed out. There's a lot of details that have yet to be confirmed by both sides, and we have to see both sides sit down and sign that agreement. China's already started to purchase some soybeans this fall, but this is the normal time of the year for them to want to purchase U.S. soybeans. After that trade agreement is signed, those are some of the details that we have to see. We're hopeful that they'll continue and even increase their purchases that much more shortly after that. But the reality of it is, though, there is going to be competition from South America. Their crop's going to be harvested here in February and beyond. And so that's going to create challenges, I think, for China to be able to fully implement the purchase side of the agreement right away. And in all reality, it's probably going to take a year or two for all the aspects of this agreement to kick into place. And keep in mind, this is only phase 1, so there has to be a phase 2 as well. I'd be remiss if I didn't say there's still risk that things could go either direction on this, but all indications are right now that we're moving in a positive direction. And we want to see China resume the purchases they did a couple years ago before this trade war started, and that was about 36 million metric tons from the U.S. But then we've seen that slowly erode down to 28 million metric tons and down to 13 million metric tons this last year. So that's a major decrease for us. And you just can't replace a country like China by increasing exports in other parts of the world. We have done that. We've increased exports in other parts of the world. We've redoubled our efforts to gain market share, but it's still not enough to completely offset what we have in China. So it's really critical for the soybean industry to be able to regain access to the Chinese market. And that requires a reduction in tariffs from China, the retaliatory tariffs on U.S. soybeans. One other point I would like to make is that Currently, China has exemptions for 9 companies in China to buy soybeans, so they would get exemptions on the current retaliatory tariffs. But there are about 25 to 30 companies that have historically purchased soybeans in China before. So if we want to see a full resumption of purchases from China, we need to see those retaliatory tariffs removed or dramatically reduced, or every single company that can purchase have exemptions, because you're not going to be able to fully implement the goals of maybe $40 billion worth of ag purchases if we don't have all the companies in China able to buy.